Alright, so today we're going to check out a video from Goji Center going to explain why InGen never decided to kill the drex. Because I mean, they must have assumed it would have been a threat once it grown up or after it was fully grown. They must have known. There's no way they wouldn't have known it was like going to cause some sort of destruction or damage or be a threat in any sort of way. So either they were just dumb or they just never like thought it was going to end up that way because they grew it. They were going to try and manipulate it or whatever. And it just never worked, and they just boom. All of a sudden, it became too late and everyone died. So hopefully Goji Center can explain to us why that is the case. So let's get straight to it. Like, subscribe to Goji Center. I'll check you guys in the video. Let's go.
Drex has now made its official debut on the big screen, giving us the chills and thrills we were expecting.
That was very small.
Most people, especially those who avidly follow Jurassic, were left with more questions rather than answers. So today on Goji Center, we'll delve deep into the known anatomy of the Distortus Rex while taking into account its
I want to know what led it to have such a crazy dome.
Lay bare some of its hidden secrets.
Like, what caused this? The
including why InGen decided to let this mutant roam about instead of terminating it. Today on the analysis platform, we'll begin by displaying a completely accurate model of the
executive figure in InGen, and I saw this thing could be a threat in the future, I would have immediately gave out the order to get rid of it.
This creature apart from the rest. Before that, we'll give you a quick rundown of everything we know about the history of this creature. The opening text for Jurassic World Rebirth explicitly implies that Distortus Rex, along with its other mutated kin, were created more than 17 years ago. More than, because this drex had evidently been wandering about for some time already, given its size at this point in the early 2010s.
It was before the original Jurassic Park. I wonder how long before.
Big and small were all genetically modified organisms, and therefore their growth rates were all enhanced. Drex wasn't going to spend 8 to 10 years growing to adult proportions. On the contrary, drex could have possibly been created as early as 2007 or 2008. The place of its creation also gives us insight as to exactly what they might have been trying to do here. St. Hubert, the island who was also recently slapped with the label of Site C, was another InGen facility where even more wild experiments took place.
That means there's other sites, so I wonder if there's going to be other
further
movies.
Mutated mutodons were brought forth.
I'm excited to see what other mutants they're going to bring into the franchise.
It's clear that some of these creatures did not come out as intended. The fact that we do see other mutated creatures, or what evidently seems to be InGen's first stab at hybrid territory, makes us think that this...
I mean, that's obviously not as intended. Obviously means it's their first go at it. So obviously they haven't done it before. It's their first try, first batch. You know, it's just like test and experiment. Just keep trying until you get what you want, I guess.
Place was actually
even though it's not humane at all, it's messed up.
In their creatures. A mutation, by definition, is a change in the DNA sequence or chromosomes of a living organism. The meddling with what are known as Hox genes in a creature could result in things like what we saw in the movie. Extra limbs or heads in animals. Distorted proportions. Dysfunctional internal anatomies. We saw it all in this lab. Distortus Rex, although obviously mutated, might have wound out that way purposefully to some extent. The InGen geneticists maybe did not intend for drex to look like this, since really this doesn't really look like the most marketable creature to sell tickets. And funnily enough, both in universe and in real life, a whole lot of people showed their disapproval of this animal. So you can imagine the marketing fluff this mutant would have made once the public got a whiff of Jurassic's next big attraction. We say next because at this point in the Jurassic timeline, Masani was already planning the next big attraction for Jurassic World.
And then even nosedived into
already going to sell tickets, but as they
enclosure.
say in business, adapt or die. The audience was eventually going to get tired of the same attractions and would eventually want to see something new. And these guys knew this. Now, it was quite possible that Simon Masrani was unaware of everything that they were doing in Site C, proven by the fact he didn't even know what the Indominus Rex was made of, or was capable of. A lot happened under him.
This is just a perfect representation of super rich and only cares about money. He's just like, I want to make a ginormous attraction that'll bring the entire world to just a big wow, and that's it. He doesn't care what they did, how they did it, whatever it is, as long as it's going to bring in a massive audience and bring in a lot of money. That's all he cares about.
his radar, and these mutants were very likely some of those things. Drex, upon hatching or while growing up, was given the name Distortus Rex. You don't give that name to something that isn't malformed, so clearly this animal had a few things wrong with him. So, why
age
keep him
restriction
alive
system,
and let him grow to
Let's just be R-rated and whatnot.
Well,
let's see gore and guts and destruction and boom and bow, you know? Come on.
Recall in the movie how this doorway had a digital label reading Drex V23, very likely short for version 23. While not explicitly mentioned in the film, we can't ignore what this implies. This Distortus Rex may not have been given this name upon birth, but instead this was a name given to a very early line of predecessors, further implying that InGen had previously made different attempts at purposefully modifying the T-Rex genome to something
like the 23rd attempt,
so
and
if we
this guy.
entertain the idea that there were indeed 22 other prior Drex iterations, where are they?
I wish they showed us.
The answer to that may well explain why they didn't kill, or rather terminate, this one. In the film, Dr. Loomis threw around the question as to why they didn't put down the mutated creatures. A very short, obvious answer to this was that they didn't have to. They probably all died already. The previous 22 mutants' anatomy was so faulty that they may have
I also assume that a lot of money goes into making them, so I mean, it's a big loss that they just kill them.
Bodies of young two-headed Triceratops and Brachiosaurus. The fact that we did see the bodies of young
I did not see this. I watched the movie and I don't remember that. I just remember the two-headed raptor. Shit, my eyes suck.
Two-headed Triceratops and Brachiosaurus in tanks, possibly deceased.
What is this guy? Is that a frog? It looks like a frog, but what are these? What's this two-headed nerd over here?
Creatures who didn't
wait, is that the Brachio you was talking about? Oh shit, that would have been insane. Imagine.
Embryo also have been another
two-headed Titanosaurus would be sick. The Titanosaurus was such a majestic scene. When you see the Titanosaurus for the first time, damn.
Third version, and this one was the only one who managed to stay alive. The InGen crew likely wanted to keep this one alive, despite it being still mutated and non-marketable, to study it, so as to not make the same mistakes
I wonder
again.
if it's in pain.
But later on, we saw they made completely new ones. Let's take a look at the Drex as it appeared in the film and see if we can't find out what else is going on under the hood. The Distortus Rex has easily the most distinctive body of any theropod in the franchise.
4 arms.
We still aren't sure of what
2
went
Rex
into its
arms
genome, but the name and some of the features of its body do imply that the base at least was a Tyrannosaurus. This specifically makes sense if it was supposed to be the replacement for Rexy eventually. It's possible that other major contributors are present.
The thing is, Rex has been an icon since when did the first movie come out? I don't know. I can't remember when the first movie came out, but since the first movie came out, Rex has been the icon. She's been the face of Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, even Jurassic World, obviously. But trying to replace that legend, that legacy, if you want to call it that, is going to be incredibly difficult. You have to do something so amazing and so just out of this world, and something that will connect with the people at such a level that Rexy will become a legend and just remembered but not forgotten. But damn, I don't know.
With the arms looking suspiciously primate-like, and something else in the DNA
I think it's just going to be really hard to try and do that.
Weight. Looking like somebody threw a xenomorph and a rancor into
That's what I said.
Mixer.
He's got a xenomorph as head.
Body is
the rancor. I didn't even think about the rancor.
Saw in the film, it was functional.
Got a fat
this
belly.
Extra set of limbs was probably the result of InGen messing with the Hox genes. For those non-biologists in the audience, these are essentially the hard coding of a body. They tell the rest of the DNA how to build the basic layout of an organism. You can make edits within the Hox genes to change the shape and configuration of a limb
Why does it have a second head over there?
But changing the entire Hox gene sequences is extremely difficult to happen naturally. This is why all land vertebrates don't have more than 4 limbs, or at least shouldn't. What happened with Drex was probably either an error or maybe an experimental edit done purposely. Obviously, with this method, it's extremely unlikely that you're gonna get the desired results the first time, hence explaining the previous 22 versions. But InGen happened to make this one functional enough to keep alive. These limbs allowed this animal to grab objects and bring them close to his mouth, tipped with claws for shredding and rending, but the most interesting addition to these hands was the pollux, the anatomical term for the thumb. That's right, folks, and we start entering shady territory for this one.
Do we have a pollux?
Both Drex and Indominus share at least 2 things in common. base genome of T-Rex and opposable thumbs.
Is that what it's called on our hand? The
absolutely
pollux.
nothing to do
The
with the base
thumb
contributor.
starts.
The presence of the said pollux may have explained how InGen managed to give the Indominable.
Those eyes out is in this skeleton figure, bro. It's just shouting Godzilla bloodbath. It is just so horrifying looking. Why's the gap? What is that?
As the opposable thumb as well. This may be
your
yet another reason why they
your
kept this one alive.
I don't know.
They might have failed at making a creature that would be sponsored by Verizon Wireless,
might not be able to
but this
handle it,
version may have had a few things done correctly. This thumb would be present in all 3 subsequent hybrids seen in the franchise: Scorpius, Indominus, and the Indoraptor. But it happened on St. Hubert Island first. The arms and hands may have been one of the very few things keeping this thing alive on this island, both because it helped this big animal move around and pick up its food, and perhaps InGen seeing this hand mutation being the only thing salvageable out of version 23. However, there were arguably more faults than virtues in drex. One was probably the head. One error that gave it its trademark appearance was its noggin, seemingly a case of hydrocephaly in the skull. This is a result of when fluid has built up inside of the skull as it formed. The result is a bulbous, soft top of the head resembling that of an embryo.
We didn't see it jiggle in the movie.
Melon is fortunately held really high away from any shorter, lesser theropods that could sink their teeth in.
Had the
Drex been shorter, this guy wouldn't have survived its first theropod matchup. But being extraordinarily large came with some negative side effects. Note how this creature has a distinctive hunched back and a very thick, or lack of, a neck. Likely another deformity from Hawk's editing. This awkward skeletal anatomy means that some of the theories we presented prior to the release of the film were indeed true. This animal wasn't the fastest, and definitely not the pursuit predator. This animal wasn't the fastest, and
that was insane. It's just catching the helicopter out of the air was like, what the heck? How did that even happen? Why did it have to be in the smoke? Why couldn't it just show us? But I mean, obviously it was there to be like, what? How did that? It was just there to surprise us. It's really cool though. Damn it.
Definitely not a pursuit predator. As it grew to larger proportions, it would have been encumbered by its increasing weight, making hunting lighter animals more difficult, forcing the Distortus to adapt and alter its hunting methodology. One thing you may have noticed in the film was that you never really got to see Distortus Rex in plain sunlight, but rather at nighttime. Being so large and slow would have forced D-Rex to think and determine that the best way to acquire its next big meal was to go the stealthy route, using the cover of darkness and being relatively silent when it wants to when lurking around in the dark. This may have been the only way this D-Rex would have actually been able to
something
hunt
that can
down
detect like vibrations in the ground would definitely be able to get away from it.
May have relied on the element of surprise and ambushed any large herbivores with a quick short lunge and leveraging those long arms and hands to bring an unsuspecting victim closer to the business end. Its jaws.
Ouch.
Now, based on this anatomy, that being with longer arms and a short neck, we'd like to think that almost every case where D-Rex is fighting or hunting, the hands are deployed first. And that is precisely how we saw 2 people get eaten by D-Rex. This bite was backed up by jaws that could crunch through a helicopter. We're going to ignore the fact that this animal miraculously grew to 25 meters in height to achieve this, but the bite itself says a lot about what this creature is capable of. We've all seen the older documentaries of a mechanical T-Rex biting into cars. While a scaled-up T-Rex could maybe do the same to a helicopter, the fact that this is still a malformed skull can't be ignored. Its warped jaw proportions would indicate that this bite force shouldn't be as good as a T-Rex on paper, but sheer size gives it plenty of power. As long as the herbivorous population of Isle St. Hubert keeps breeding, we're expecting T-Rex to stay alive for quite some time. Perhaps making a reappearance in the next outing. Perhaps long enough to live the best life it possibly can. Or perish in an epic battle against another formidable foe.
That formidable foe better be that big T-Rex you saw in the movie that we only got for like 2 minutes. Man, I wish we saw more of it. I was really excited for that giant T-Rex to show up and finally see what it can do. This guy, if he doesn't make a return in the next movie, then I don't even know what they're doing anymore. They're just like, whatever. I don't know. Maybe maybe it just boils down to the fact that they were not able to or not allowed to kill it. Like monetary value, thick hide, or they just wanted to like research it, see like how are you surviving, why are you surviving with all these malformities and issues, and maybe they're just curious and they just didn't think of the consequences and what the threat it could have or be. So I mean, let me know down in the comments what you guys think. What reason might it have been for them to not kill it? But anyways, if you guys enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll check you guys in the next one. Peace.